How are you?
Hi. Good, good, good. Right. Well, how the heck do we follow that?
I actually thought that's a really good introduction to what we do at Alibaba.
Good.
We work obviously a lot with L'Oreal as a brand. And the technology that was just showcased, I didn't prepare for this, but when I look at it, it looks a lot like we have something called, Alibaba has this thing called new retail, which eventually means the convergence between online and offline. And offline stores a lot of technology, something we call magic mirror. Eventually you go there and you demonstrate, eventually using technology powered by the cloud and data and AI, and it shows you can try clothes out and you can try wear different makeups. So I actually thought that's a really good, very good intro. Yeah.
Purple hair for you?
We can.
It was a bit late for me. But, good. Anyway, no, so that's great. That's great. And you two are both going to be on this panel in a few minutes, so I'm sure you can talk more about that. That was set up splendidly. So we were going to talk a little bit about Alibaba, and there's sort of three areas, really, three divisions, aren't there, Bruce? So just give us the sort of quick note on each of the three, and then one of them we're going to talk about, or a couple we're going to talk about mostly.
Yeah, we probably don't have time to talk through all the, because Alibaba is growing into such a big behemoth these days, particularly in China. But in Australia, there are three mainly areas that we sort of focus on. The first area is obviously the e-commerce, and most of them is cross-border, what we call cross-border e-commerce. That's down through our Tmall and Taobao platforms. Eventually, if you think about, there are currently 300 million middle class in China, and they all demand healthier products, better products, and Australia sort of had that premium healthy image. So we help Australian brands sell to the China market, to the consumers directly. There are currently 2,000 Australian brands on our platform, and 700 New Zealand brands on our platform. Most of them, a lot of them, there are big brands like Woolies and Chemist Warehouse, but a lot of brands are smaller, and a lot of them entered the market for the first time digitally through the Alibaba platform. So that's what we call the e-commerce platform. And also, currently there are 1.2 million Chinese population in Australia, including the immigrants, 200,000 Chinese students. So that's the, as a brand, how do you market to that sort of more diversified local audience? So we help, if you're, I don't know, a local Chinese new immigrant that you want to buy a soybean making machine, and you can't probably source it here. So you have to buy from the other suppliers from Asia. So we also facilitate that. So it's going both ways. So that's the first pillar, which is the cross-border e-commerce, which is what we focus on. The second pillar is the mobile payment platform, Alipay, which had a partnership announced with CBA and NAB, very much focused on the China outbound tourist sector. And last year, I think the data shows there are 1.43 million outbound Chinese tourists to Australia, pumping $10 billion into the Australian economy. And that number is projected to reach 3 million in the next couple of years. And the most recent Nielsen study shows 99% of those tourists had Alipay installed in their mobile app. And that's the other thing that I want to sort of mention is this whole convergence between online and offline from a digital standpoint, where you imagine you're landed in your Sydney airport with your Alipay app on your mobile. And it's in China, we look at WeChat and all these Alipay included. It's almost become what we call super apps. So the app does multiple things. You can hail a taxi, you can make payments, you can pay your utility bills, you can buy movie tickets, you can purchase financial services products from asset management standpoint. And you can do everything in one app. And imagine you have that in your phone, you're landing in the airport, you open your app, you're trying to figure out where are the place I should be going, which restaurant I should be visiting. Maybe I want to go to the Gucci store or the LVMH or what have you. And once you visit, the app is going to show you. And once you visit that Gucci store, afterwards, say you go to some other places, and we'll send you a coupon or some sort of deal or promotion. So that experience from online to offline becomes seamless. And if you go hail a taxi here, I think there are 25,000 taxis are already plugged in with Alipay that you can pay with your mobile. And in China, I don't carry cash anymore. It's completely cashless. Currently the platform has 1 billion user, and that's, I think, the most recent evaluation is around $150 billion or something like that. So with Ant Financial, which is affiliated with Alibaba Group. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is sort of the cloud computing, which eventually powers everything that Lando was showing from a technology standpoint and big data and AI standpoint. And our cloud team is relatively small here, but we launched a data center local region back in 2016. A lot of people don't know that you can run workloads and store data in Sydney in our data centers. Obviously, we focus very heavily on the retail sector and the China for business who wants to obviously expand to Asia and China. So that's the cloud computing arm, which eventually powers everything I just mentioned. From a data, you can think of that as the plumbing of internet, right? That's kind of the next pillar that we focus on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there many brands in this room who are working with Alibaba? L'Oreal obviously are. Any others? Opportunities, Bruce. Opportunities. Look at
we have provide eyeballs for all of you,
okay.
For brands too. We hope our technology can enable the brands, particularly if you have plans to expand into Asia and into China, obviously. The second thing is we're actually working with, I don't know if Iconic is here or other sort of e-commerce brands, but the technology was just showcased, things like image search. If you open your Iconic app and you tap on that, you like that clothes, you want to take a photo of it, instead of typing keywords, you basically take a photo, and the image search is going to show you all the similar clothing. And that's powered by obviously big data analytics and AI, but that the products we commercialize called image search, that's what we, as a technology enabler, help the local brands as well.
So, does anyone want to ask Bruce any questions on this? It's a good opportunity to find out a little bit more about Alibaba. We're going to ask you some other things in a moment, but if anybody does on that, what we've heard so far? Go on, don't be shy. No? All right, I'll come back to you. So I look at, Amazon in the UK is obviously got a huge presence, and on the one hand, it's enhancing opportunities for the brands. On the other hand, people might look at it and think it might disintermediate them, and quite rightly so, I think in some cases. Is that conversation held with you at the moment, or at the moment because you're just moving people into different markets? Presumably, it's not a conversation that comes up.
It's actually a very common question.
Yeah.
And people, so two points I want to make. One is the business model that Alibaba has is fundamentally different from the way I understand how Amazon operates. I think they launched it here 2 years ago and saw a lot of Black Friday ads. How we look at we're sort of measured on what we call GMV, so gross merchandise value, which eventually means the transactions happen on the Alibaba platform. So it's an enabler for brands so we look at those transactions, we don't actually make revenue from those. There's other ways from advertising and other things that we actually make revenue. I don't think we do direct sale, unlike Amazon. So I think that business model, I think when Jack Ma started his business, I think that's first point number one, business model is very different. Point number two, I think it all comes down to, I never work at Amazon, so I can't really comment on that. But I think what a company does fundamentally is the vision and the mission and the DNA and the value that drives every decision that you make. I think when Jack Ma started the company, he doesn't have a rich uncle or a powerful dad, so to speak. To me, it's just and the reason I joined Alibaba from Google is that's relatable, and I think that's almost like a Silicon Valley story, but happened in China when Jack started business with 18 of his founders in his apartment. So the vision of the company is really empower other business to make it easy to do business everywhere, and empower other brands, and also the technology that Alibaba Cloud develops that we externalize. The example just gave is empowering other brands. We don't have any recent plans to actually change that, and I think that DNA runs deeply into.
So you think it's a very different
We're still very much have a startup sort of.
Sure. So a very different culture
mentality.
to Amazon, but also a different culture to Google from your experience there?
Yeah, very different. Obviously, Google has a very strong culture. It's very engineering-driven, product-driven. I think there are Googlers in this room, so I'm an ex-Googler, and I love the company. But I think in these days, don't be evil is not enough, right? That's what Jake used to say. And as tech in general, I think we need to do good. And we'll have a lot of, like it or not, we're just, these companies become so big now, and it carries a lot of, responsibilities. So yeah.
And we mentioned earlier, just very briefly, voice and voice marketing. So that presumably is a technology that Alibaba are going to exploit, let us say.
Yeah, I think all the tech players are. One thing you.
How do you think you're going to?
A few examples that if you think about mobile is the last sort of trend, or sort of last wave sort of happened. A lot of people obviously think voice is the next thing. So people are thinking, what's next after mobile? Obviously, it's debatable, but I think a lot of people think voice is the next thing for both for marketers, for brands. If you think of the Google Home or Amazon Alexa equivalent, like Alibaba has an equivalent called Tmall Genie. So in China, it's not here, but in China, Tmall Genie is already integrated with BMW. So every BMW cars that's going to be manufactured and sold in China is going to be integrated with that technology with voice control and everything, and brings that experience seamlessly. So short answer is, yeah, I think that's probably going to be where the next, if you pick one thing, that's probably the next thing.
Next phase. And what else do you think we're going to see heading this way from China?
I think we're just in a humble way. But I do think we're fortunate in the sense that we're just sitting on a lot of data, and currently with China, just keep in mind, China is big, but China is still poor in the sense that the GDP per capita is $8,000 US, and in Australia the number is 55,000, so it's 7 times. But Australia obviously it's a city of a population of Beijing, right, with 25 million. But the data that we sort of sit on. So first of all, that the Chinese government really want to lift up the sort of the living quality of these people. And second is these people, like on our platform, we saw there are 600 million consumers on the Alibaba ecosystem on our platforms. There are 800 million monthly mobile active users on the mobile platform. Many of them leapfrog the desktop phase, jump right into mobile. And I think that you're going to see the next trend of consumer insights coming from that. And it's just the way it is, because the big data, and a lot of people talk about big data, and there's a joke sort of made which I like, it's like I don't know if it's appropriate to say it here, but it's pretty much like use sex, where everybody talks about it, nobody has done it, everyone thinks the other person has done it, but in our case we have done it. In a humble way.
That wasn't we, by the way. That was just general.
There's a shopping festival every year in November 11th. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's called Double 11 or Singles Day. Folks in the retail space have probably heard of it. And last year we did, in 48 hours, we did $30 billion in 48 hours. And the cloud platform handles 300. I think the data from the year before is 325,000 transactions per second, and that's big data. And that transaction volume is Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined, multiplied by 5 times. So, and then people don't. And I think we're just fortunate because we're in China, and that's where. And just like Google, a few years ago, you saw the latest search trend not happening in US, happens in Japan, and it's because of the mobile usage there, right? And I don't think we did anything. We're particularly smarter than anybody else or anything like that. It's just the way it is, because that's where the insights are coming from. And I think that we could empower and provide those technology and the insights and know-how to the brands. And with Chemist Warehouse here, with the iconic, with the retail customers here, for example, from a technical standpoint, and also from a industry cloud standpoint.
Questions? Any questions? Oh, jolly good. Hang on, microphone coming your way. Just tell us who you are, please.
Hi, I'm Rosie Baker from Group N. My question is kind of going back to a few points. Is it kind of concerning that in a room with some of these Australian brands, no one put their hand up when they said, is anyone working with Alibaba? And I think looking at the opportunities that you've outlined in the Chinese market, whether it's inbound or outbound for Australian businesses, what is holding Australian businesses and brands back from that? And I think some of the numbers you just outlined are probably quite terrifying for the scale of Australian businesses, but what do you think is actually holding Australian businesses back?
It's probably our responsibility as well, because maybe we need to broaden our message a little bit to this audience or to the local brands more, because previously we just solely focused on the cross-border e-commerce space. And what we've seen actually, there are a lot of success stories. And as I mentioned, there are over 2,000 brands on our platform, Australian brands already. Miranda Kerr, she launched her cosmetic brand in China on our platform for the first time, and her launched the brand. So there are, and you can imagine this sort of, maybe it's because of the category, I think. If you're in like maternity or baby milk or healthcare or whatever, maybe those categories we have a higher, but I certainly think it's if you guys are not on it, talk to us, and particularly if your business strategy has, I think in Australia, generally speaking, I think our retail sector bounced back since the financial crisis, and there's certain categories that grows faster than the other categories, and I think maybe that's why. But I certainly think it is a missed opportunity if, because there are consumer there, and we already have a platform, and we can provide you with the eyeballs and help you just navigate through it. And I don't know if I know there's an agency session before this, but if your agency, talk to your agency and really ask them how many of them have expertise to actually help you market your brand in China. The answer is probably they're working with other agency in China to help you get there. So I think all of these areas are opportunities, but it comes down to the growth strategy for a brand, I guess. If you want to, if you see there's opportunity for you. But if the global brands obviously already work with us.
Good question. We'll get you back.
I don't know if it answered your question, but yeah.
We'll get you back here next year and do the count.
We need to do better.
The count again.
Hopefully we'll do better.